Oh, hey. Welcome to the library. Just doing a little light reading. You might think that wine is my only love in the beverage world, but that's where you're wrong. There is another mistress that shares my heart, and her name is Chartreuse. She's kind yet cruel, like every relationship should be. Chartreuse is one of my favorite after-dinner beverages, but increasingly being enjoyed before dinner and in cocktails like the last word. I'm a big fan of the Chartreuse and tonic. Throw a little gin in there just to make sure the path to hell is well paved. It is Halloween after all. But before we delve too much into the spirit itself, I think it's worth knowing some more about the history. If you're going to be an aficionado of Chartreuse like myself, you should know how we got there before you're part of Club 1605. So in 1605, Duke Francois Hannibal gave the monks, the Carthusian monks, an ancient manuscript with hundreds of different herbs that were used to make something called the elixir of life. The monks spent time perfecting this recipe, deciding what herbs did and did not work. In 1737, after over 130 years of experimentation, they came down to the final 130 herbs that were going to be used in the recipe. In 1764, the recipe was adapted to make green chartreuse in an approximation of the version that we currently enjoy. It's the only green liqueur that's naturally colored. It doesn't use any artificial elements to get this beautiful Dr. Banner Hulk-like hue. It weighs in at a pretty healthy 55% alcohol. In 1838, Yellow Chartreuse was born using the same 130 herbs. I find that to be a little softer, a little sweeter, a little lower alcohol. It's also naturally colored, and they use honey as the sweetening agent. In 1903, the French government wanted to nationalize chartreuse production in the distillery, and the monks refused to give up that recipe. As a matter of fact, there's only 2 monks at any given time that know the recipe for chartreuse. Very closely guarded secret. So they were expelled to Spain, to Tarragona, where they established a new distillery. In 1929, the French government allowed the monks to return, and so they made their way back to France and to the distillery there. In 1963, the VEP was introduced. So VEP comes in the same colors as traditional chartreuse, green and yellow, but we'll talk more about the distinctions with that later. And most recently in 2018, nearly 400 years after the first distillery, they've opened the most recent and seventh. What's going on here? I thought you guys were supposed to be monks.
I'm a chartreuse cat.
Who's he, Lawrence of Arabia?
We're on a budget.
What is that, the dude? I thought you drank White Russians.
A little bud.
Anyway, so back to the chartreuse itself. 130 ingredients. The monks select the herbs. They dry them in the old bakery at the monastery, place them in bags, and then hand them off to the distiller. So this really kind of helps keep that secret very closely guarded. We'll start with the yellow chartreuse, the one that I mentioned earlier, that came out in 1838. It's sweetened with honey, a little lower alcohol. The flavor profile in this I find to be more honeysuckle, a little more kind of sweeter citrus. The alcohol is just a little bit lower. A softer, kind of easier drinking interpretation. The classique, if you will, green chartreuse. This is my personal favorite. It's a little more herbal, a little more bitter, piney, almost minty. This is my favorite version of Chartreuse and the most popular around the world. When we're moving into the VEP designations, so VEP is aged for a longer time in oak barrels, and because of this, the product is more limited engagement. You can only have a certain amount in the barrel, in the cask. The bottles are individually numbered and harder to find because of the aging requirements. It's not a perpetually produced product like you see with the other forms of Chartreuse. And then finally, the Green Chartreuse Vp. This is really kind of the crown jewel in the Chartreuse empire, and I think their finest product.
Hey, what are you guys doing? Are you guys making Chartreuse? So that's what goes into it, huh? So cool.
That took a pretty dark turn quickly. I guess we don't mess with the secret recipe or the Carthusian monks. But to talk a little bit more about Chartreuse and why I think, especially this time of year, it's a great product to enjoy. You know, we're moving into fall, heavier dishes, heavier meals. There's holidays coming up. It's something to kind of work as a digestif, cleanse the palate, have you ready for round two at the holiday table. And as a gift, you know, I think it's a nice package, and that's something myself and a lot of people are a sucker for. So, worth the splurge, especially on the VEPs. I hope you enjoyed a brief education on Chartreuse. If you want to learn more, there will be information in the links below. And if you liked the video, please prove it by liking it on the internets, otherwise it didn't happen. And subscribe to our channel. Enjoy the holidays. Happy Halloween.
Something.
Thanks.